All right, cool. So, what's going on, guys? Jacoborth back here with another video of Jacob's Life in Vegas, coming to you guys with an interview video today. This gentleman right here with me is...
I'm Reynaldo Martinez, aka Miss Vivian Dumont, to those of you in the know in Las Vegas.
All right, so I brought Ray on the channel because I wanted to get some perspective here for you guys from a local, another local who's been here longer than me in Las Vegas, to talk about a subject. I've had a handful of people ask me about this over the years, and I've just never really gotten to interview somebody else on the topic. So it's about the gay life in Las Vegas, living in Las Vegas as a gay person. So Ray was gracious enough to come on here, agree to do an interview, talk all about it. You're gonna love Ray. Everybody loves Ray, okay? Exactly. So we're gonna get into Ray's story a little bit, gonna get his thoughts, and yeah, you guys tell me what you think down below, okay? So Ray, you moved to Vegas in what year?
2001.
2001, okay.
I literally moved here a week after 9/11.
Okay, so you moved here in September 2001. So a week after 9/11.
Yep.
From?
El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
Sorry about it.
No. So you come from El Paso, and this is something I've mentioned before when it comes to people like moving to Vegas is, you know, certain questions can be kind of tough to answer because, you know, like 3/4 of our population comes from outside of Nevada.
Oh, it's true.
Right, so people who come here, you know, from different places, you know, just thinking Vegas might be crowded, right? You come from New York City or LA, you're not going to think Vegas is very crowded, but if you're coming from Odessa, Texas, you're going to think Vegas is probably people stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, if you're from Odessa, that's very, very accurate. But believe it or not, El Paso is just like here. Almost the exact same climate. The only difference is instead of a mountain in the middle of the town, it's the Strip.
Yeah.
It's identical.
Right. So culturally, though, people coming to Las Vegas, especially people who are gay, they're going to be coming here. So you grew up, you know, spent a lot of your younger years in El Paso in the 90s.
Yes.
So you coming from El Paso, I mean, so talk about attitude there in El Paso, Texas, you know, towards gay people. You can talk about the 90s versus, you know, today. I don't know how often you go back, but...
I go back pretty far.
So
let me tell you the tea.
Go ahead.
So back in the 90s, I thought I was the only gay in all of El Paso, Texas. Swear to God. And then I realized that the community there was just very, very small. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that there were a lot of gays that came from the military base, that were a lot of my friends, and they couldn't be out loud and proud. That, you know, that was the climate back then.
Right.
A lot of people didn't come out back then. There weren't all the resources there were now. So I really didn't have anybody to latch onto or reach out to. I moved here to Vegas in 2001, and there are more gays than I know what to do with. And I, you know, found my way through several crowds to eventually find my way and realize who I get along with, what I'm doing. And I think what really centered what I do is the whole drag thing. That kind of made me a focal point of the community. I'm not saying I run anything, but you know, it helps me figure out where I fit.
Okay. So, because you used to do drag shows in El Paso, right?
Yes.
And you said, so in El Paso, basically, there were obviously gay people there, but, you know, they weren't very vocal, they weren't very well known, it was pretty much kept quiet. So you didn't even know there were really other gay people there.
Very that. I didn't go to my first gay bar until I was 20, and I saw my first two drag queens. They were amazing. The one that I saw, her name was Blue. She lit herself on fire. She was amazing. But that wasn't the reason I started drag. It was the one that came after her who was a complete disaster. And I said, I can do better than that. And my friends told me, okay, well, put up or shut up. 21 years later, here I am. But that's literally, it felt like such a small community back then, where now I realize I know all the various communities in some sort of respect. I, you know, have friends across, you know, every genre of gay that exists here. It's a horrible thing to say. But where I find that I fit in is right now I exist with other married couples. I've built a life here. I've been here for almost 2 decades. Just bought my first house. You know, legally married, have a good job. Those are the gays that I gravitate towards and that I hang out with.
Right.
And they're also drag queens. They're also people who give back to the community, do their time in charity events and stuff like that.
Okay. So let's talk about that when you first came here, you know, or over the years, finding your niche even within the gay community. So, I mean, what were either different groups, different niches, and, you know, how did you basically find your way to where you are today, to the community, like the segment of the community that you usually hang with?
What's interesting is I don't think I found my way so much as I stuck to my guns. When I first moved here, it was kind of almost the same experience as it was when I left El Paso. The community felt very small.
Yeah.
I went towards what I knew, other drag queens, etc. And back then, early 2000s in Las Vegas, drag queens weren't as respected as they are now. Drag queens now have a certain air of celebrity to them. You know, they're on TV shows, on reality shows, hosting talk shows, they're on podcasts. We'll get to that. But what had happened was, all of a sudden now, because drag is more accepted, now I have more of a visible presence in the community. So that's what helped me. I wasn't one of those pretty buff, you know, circuit gays who was going to show up in a jockstrap to the bar on underwear night and have everyone hang around me. That was never me.
Yeah.
You know, I went through times where I would perform and literally as soon as the drag show started, the bar would clear.
Yeah.
That's not the case of the world we live in anymore, thank God.
Well, and I think it's something that some people, you know, if they're not very familiar at all with gay people or a gay community, they don't quite get that. Because when I worked in San Francisco, worked in nightlife there, in the club I worked at, for most of the time I was there, we had gay night once a week.
Right.
So, you know, Thursday night was our gay night, and it was generally a younger crowd. It was an 18 and up crowd. So it was mixed with men and women. We had lots of, you know, said younger people there. I remember a lot of the promoters who were there for that event, they even said they felt like a lot of the younger crowd, they didn't even, you know, weren't even sure if they were gay. They were just going through a phase they thought they were. Now we do parties like that, and then we do a party where it was older guys, not I mean older like middle-aged, I mean guys in their, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s who were muscular. They were shirtless, assless chaps, and it was like all men at the party. Totally different demographic than the younger crowd who was there that was mixed guys and girls.
Right.
So I think some people, they just don't quite see that even like within the gay community, like you said, there's different groups and different niches that you fall into, different people you just may get along with better.
It's true. And back then, they all felt very segregated. Now I think we're all pulling together as one, and I think that's maybe more a little bit the result of the political climate. It's a bad thing, but it's a good result. It's so funny. I feel like I really found my footing as disasters unfortunately started happening to the community, and I don't mean the gay community, I mean the community in general. For example, when the October 1st incident happened, it was my responsibility, and I took it very seriously, that I had to show up and still do my show and say, you know what, if you want a safe space to come, maybe forget about everything that's been going on in Vegas for a moment, come sing a song with me. I'm here for you. I'm here showing love to you. And then after the Pulse shooting happened, it was like the same thing.
Right, to take their mind off of it.
You know, I want you to know that I'm still going to walk out of my house out loud and proud because I believe you guys deserve that.
Right, you won't let someone else, you know, make you live in a state of fear.
No, there's no reason. Exactly. And I'm not saying I don't have fear. I don't live fearless. I'm only a human, you know.
Right.
Things scare me, especially the way things are. Like I said, I'm from El Paso, and I was recording the podcast when I realized that there was a shooting that had happened at my hometown. That was very frightening, extremely frightening. And I was having like acid flashbacks of what had happened on October 1st here in Vegas. And I still pulled myself up by my bootstrap and said, you know what, carrying on is the best thing I can do. You know, and I'm not slighting anyone else who goes out and does more and gives more and does charity. That's what they should be doing. We should all be doing our part. My part is to still show up and show out.
Okay. So let's talk. So for you, from your perspective, coming here from El Paso, you come to Las Vegas, even you said almost 20 years ago, you thought the gay community here was pretty big.
Comparatively speaking, yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, that might be different for someone who came from like San Francisco, who's used to the Castro, or someone who came from Seattle, they're used to Capitol Hill, or, you know, West Hollywood, or in San Diego, it's
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest, thank you. Right. So Vegas, I wouldn't say has a neighborhood that's known for being like the gay neighborhood.
We really don't. And you know, even my home bar is like probably the furthest from everywhere. My Dragioki show is Wednesday nights at the Flex, starting at 9. But it's off of Arville and Charleston, which seems like a distance away from any of the other gay bars. The closest one is the Phoenix. And that one's, you know, down and over on Sahara. And even those two bars themselves are a good distance from the Fruit Loop, which is off of, you know, Harmon and Paradise.
Yeah, that's over by Hard Rock, the airport. Locals refer to it as the Fruit Loop because there's, what, Piranha's over there,
Piranha,
Free Zone.
Yeah.
Several others.
Little minor bars. There's a leather bar, there's quads, all that fun stuff. You know, and they each got their own little niche, their own little community, which is great. I support all my sisters' shows, everything they do out there. there's a place for you to be somewhere in Vegas. You just got to be willing to put in the drive. That's the thing. Unlike where I've visited Hillcrest, I've visited WeHo and all that stuff, and I feel very claustrophobic in those neighborhoods. Nothing against them, they're fun. I've had a great time. But here I kind of enjoy the drive and the space. I really do.
Exactly. So, but in this, so like you're saying, regardless of where you might fit into this community, you can find, a niche, if you will, for you. You can find a crowd for you.
You'll find your bar. Where we're at right now is the Garage, and this is a great, just happy hour bar. It's always packed. It's good people. It's music. They don't do any shows or anything like that. That's not how they roll. Where I perform at the Flex, it's a good dive bar. That's straight up what it is, and it's wonderful. We got shows every other night, and what I like is that the crowd's super diverse there. Straight women, gay men, straight men, you name it, they come in there. I have a good, trans population that shows up as well. I love that my show and a lot of the shows there are inclusive, as most of them are across town.
Oh, you like
they
the
really
fact
are.
that it covers a broader range of people than maybe a lot of people would realize.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
You'll find your space here. That's the thing. Like I said, it's kind of due to the unfortunate political climate we live in right now, but we've come together more than 20 years ago when I moved here, and I felt that segregation between all the different, communities.
Right. So, so have you met other people who come from bigger cities and gotten to hear, their thoughts? Because you came from a really small gay community. Have you ever heard of someone else here from maybe another big city, a New York, a LA, or something like that, who thinks that this community is tiny here? They think there's not much to offer. They think
it's not so much that they think it's tiny. They go back to what I said. There's a little more breathing room here. You're not relegated to, Greenwich Village or this little block sect of closet-style bars that exist, hole in the walls. Even, like I said, Hillcrest, which is really nice if you're on the main drag, they have these really lovely bars with open patios and cute areas. And that still feels a little too claustrophobic for me. Here, you got one bar that this is, it's this entire building. The Flex is that entire corner. You got space, you got room to breathe. All of a sudden you feel like, well, it doesn't feel that big, but the community feels smaller, but I'm okay with that. I've never heard anyone really complain within recent time that the community here is too small.
Right.
And again, we've let go of that whole, the community is distended. But I think that's kind of also across the country as well.
Okay. So, people coming here, wanting to find a spot to live in Vegas, want to be part of this community. Damn, lost my train of thought.
Oops.
No, it's okay. Let's see. Do you want to talk any organizations or anything you're a part of, or anything like that?
Of course, I'd love to.
Okay, cool. So, well, let me start it.
Go ahead.
I'll have to cut that part so it looks a little more fluid. All right. So in the time you've been here, the almost 2 decades, there's, you've probably seen as the community has grown, you've probably seen other organizations grow, other organizations come in, added new organizations, new resources for people. So, you want to just touch on that?
Yeah, I've been involved with a lot of the organizations for at least 3/4 of the time that I've been here. When I first moved here, it wasn't a thing. The organizations, a lot of them were fledgling at the time. We have a Pride organization. We have the Imperial Royal Sovereign Court of the Desert Empire. That's a court organization. We have the Nevada Gay Rodeo Association. All of those organizations have come a long way in supporting the community, and I've been involved on some level with each one of those, given my time or what have you. And it's one of the things that I do enjoy doing. I always say I never get in face unless I'm getting paid. But if I believe in the cause, which is the organizations, which they do give back to the community, then I'm about that life. I'll do it. I'll show up for, a charity number. I donate my tips, what have you. I think they've come a long way too. Again, and I feel like I'm really beating a dead horse. It's the way the world has changed lately that we realize as a gay community, giving back is a lot more important than the way we used to be. Because it was really that separated, and court shows, NGRA shows, Pride shows used to get railed on for being boring, for being pedestrian, for being nothing but ballads. Now we've developed such an amazing drag culture here. You're going to go to one of these charity events and actually see still good entertainment.
Right.
It may be just shy of your straight drag show, where we're entertaining you because we want to make money, but you'll still get entertained, and you realize your money is going back to what you're putting it into.
Right. Okay. So let's talk workplace for a bit, employed me here. So obviously, you know, you have people who are part of the gay community work in all different types of industries. This is one thing I saw and learned in San Francisco. You have people who they work in accounting, people who are pharmacists, people who are attorneys, every different conceivable job you could think of. You know, people are police officers.
Yeah.
So you'd say, you know, here, same thing. It encompasses a large group of people. Some who, you know, may come to these places and you would never know that they're part of the gay community.
What's interesting about working here is that there's always at least one gay in every industry. And the more service-oriented it is, the more likely we are to be there. So you're really never alone.
Okay.
You don't feel outside, which is funny, you know, the industry that, well, we work in. What I really appreciate about specifically the exact job that I work at is that my bosses really encourage me to be the most me I can. I've always worn the cat ears and done that thing because it's something that makes me happy.
Right.
It's the only reason I do it. But when they found out that I did that at work, they're like, why don't you?
Yeah.
You know, be yourself.
Right.
You know, find that happiness in what you do. Like, they've been so encouraging. Even on the days that I'm most frustrated, how can you be really pissed at your job when you go home and, like, part of taking off your uniform is you yank off your ears and you're like, it makes you chuckle. It makes you feel better at the end of the day.
So, because that's one of the things actually that brings up a good point. You know, the culture here in Nevada, I've talked about this a handful of times on the channel, where Nevada, its history has been a very libertarian culture.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, essentially being like, in a nutshell, like if what you're doing is not hurting someone else, people are pretty much, hey, whatever, they're hands off, you know?
They really are.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, we're in a state where we have 24-hour drinking, right? If you want to drink it, you know, 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., it's your choice. You know, that's why we're in a state where we have legalized prostitution in the rural parts of the state.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to go pay for that, you can pay for it. Like, it's your choice, you know?
It's true.
Everyone agrees. So would you say that, you know, for gay people living here, it's a similar concept where it's like, you know, people usually aren't going to go out of their way to try to, like, make your life a challenge. They're just going to live their life and do whatever they do.
They don't. If, you know, compared to how it was for me in Texas, and I'm looking back to particularly when I was in college, I probably felt more discriminated against personally there than I have ever here. If I have felt like I was put in a bad position with any of the jobs that I've held while I was here, it's because that was just a poor boss.
Right.
It wasn't because he hated me because I was gay. It wasn't because I felt wrong for being the way I am. And obviously, I'm not one of those guys who like passes for straight and I walk down the, you know, the street and you're gonna think, oh, is he or isn't he? No, you know I goddamn am, and I personally don't care. I'm too old to give a shit anymore. Are we allowed to cuss?
Sure.
Why not? Anyways, but that's my point. I've never been afraid to be me, and I think that's what is really wonderful about here is that you can be yourself.
Right.
You know, I still hold myself to a certain standard when I leave. I'm not going to walk out and be at one person pride parade 365 days a year, but I also am, you know, not going to put myself in situations where I would naturally be in danger going out as myself.
Right.
I'm going to come to the establishments I know where I'm going to have a good time, where I feel safe, etc. You know, I'm not going to find the deepest, darkest dive bar that's full of bikers and straight men. Nothing against bikers or straight men. But, you know, and then all of a sudden start hitting on everybody, just guaranteeing myself an ass whooping. That's not going to happen. You know, but I can go to, you know, the grocery store and at 3 a.m. after I just got off of work with ears on, my full uniform, and like not care.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable.
Right. And no one else, and you just go to the grocery store and go home.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm buying my milk. Almond milk, don't fuck with me.
Okay. So let's talk also about, you mentioned earlier you are married. So,
Yes.
Sorry, Ray is off the market.
Aw, poor you.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, fellas. So you've been married how many years now?
Okay, legally married for 5 years, but I've been with my husband for 19.
Okay, so
A while.
So before you came here or right when you came here?
Before.
So before you came here?
Before.
Okay.
8 months before.
Okay. So let's try to touch, so you've been together since before you got here, but you know, if you just do what you can to touch on someone coming here single as a gay person versus someone coming here married, you know, married life versus single life.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'll be very honest. I personally think it's rougher to be here when you move here single. Because a lot of the community is transient. Some people move here and they thrive. Some people thrive on the difference from where they were, whether it's bigger, smaller, whatever their difference is. Other people just can't make it because there's too many available vices. This is a 24-hour town. That's one thing you always got to keep yourself in check of. You know you're moving into a place where if you want a cocktail, like you said, at 3:45 a.m. in the morning, you can go get you one.
Exactly.
You know, for some people it throws them for a loop that you can roll up in a Target and buy hard liquor.
Yeah.
It's the way it is. If you can keep your vices in check, if you can get used to the rhythm, if you can find yourself an actual life, be productive, you'll do fine here. You'll find other people who do their job and they live here, they make a living here. But if you are about that, you know, real club style life, about, you know, just going out and for the fun of it, it's going to eat you alive real quick, and you're probably going to feel that there's nobody out here that's worth investing in.
Right.
And I know this is coming from somebody who moved here with their husband, but we kind of put the same judgment on our friends.
Right.
If you've been with us through the long haul, and there are several of my friends who I've known since the day I moved here, you know, they're my ride or dies. They're good people. They're very good people, and they do exist, and they are out there.
Right. That's yeah, because I've done a video about that in the past where, you know, it's like I said, can you call Las Vegas your home? Because some people come here, and even though they're moving here, they may treat it like they're on vacation. They don't see this as a place to actually live and have a life and build a life. So part of it is just your own mentality of saying, this is where I'm going to live. I want to actually make an effort to build a life here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and do more than just drink or gamble or party or whatever the case is.
You can't do it like that. You can't do it like that. I mean, that's kind of the fun, you know, that you got to have those stories. You got to do certain things here so you can tell everyone back at home that you're doing great, or at least have a good anecdote, what have you. But ultimately, the other, you know, 360 days of the year, you know, you're working, you're commuting, you're... you know, walking your dog, what have you, getting your house together, cleaning.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
Okay.
This is a place you can live and thrive.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying for years, guys.
It really is.
Yeah, there's a heck of a lot more here than just the Strip and Fremont Street and all that kind of stuff, okay?
Oh, it's true.
Plenty of, you know, quote-unquote normal day-to-day activities and normal life you can live here in Las Vegas. Gay, straight, or whatever the case is, doesn't matter.
Really?
Exactly.
It's true.
So let's talk. So someone who's watching this, and they come here day one, and they don't know anybody. They'd like to be a part of the gay community, but they don't know anybody here. They're coming, you know, from some other state. Would you say look into meetup groups? You say just come hang out at a bar or restaurant like here and just start socializing, making friends?
As a gay person, that's a very tricky thing.
Okay.
Don't get into grinder culture. Don't get into scruff culture. If you're really coming here and you want to find your groove, your niche, do your research. Don't look for quote-unquote meetup groups, with the exception of one that I will throw my back behind, which is the Las Vegas Gamers.
Okay.
I've seen more people through social media join them as a welcoming group. Oh, hey, I'm from this part of the country, and there's a gamer group. For some reason, they are the most welcoming. I'm not saying that others aren't. You know, if you're coming here as a drag queen and you think you're going to roll up in here and, you know, take over your first day out, good luck with that. Even if you're fabulous, you still got some work to do. But for some reason, there's something about the gamer community that they're very welcome and opening. And I think that's probably one of the most prominent well, I hate calling them a meetup group because they're really not. They get together, they play their tournaments, they are about the cosplay life, they kind of pseudo-involve the furries and things like that. They're a good way to get out and meet people because they really do have other events that exist outside of bars and stuff like that. One of my main homegirls, who I've just recently met, she's fabulous. Her name is Anyanka. Oh my God, I can't think of what her last name is. I feel so bad. Sorry, Annie. She is an amazing cosplayer, and she's really putting herself out there and doing a great job of unifying all the people out here. She's amazing. Love her. It's a good place to be. I think that's where you should start. Start with the gamers.
Okay, so start with gamers, and then basically, because I mean, you have to start somewhere. And I usually tell people whether it's, you know, making friends or whether it's getting a job. Like, you start somewhere, then you'll find your way from there through other references. You'll find other places you can go to visit, or, you know, other people will give you ideas and things that maybe you didn't know about.
Right.
You know,
you may think they're too nerdy or what have you, but they're putting you in different situations you may not have found yourself, and you're going to find someone.
Right.
Some people that you will get along with.
Okay. Let's see. We've covered a lot this time. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any other matters of importance you would like to bring up?
Oh, well, the one thing we haven't talked about, the podcast.
Yes.
Let's talk about the podcast.
Ray's podcast he has. That's part of the reason I asked Ray to do this, because I knew he had some experience in the online world and the digital world. So go ahead, tell him about the podcast that I'll link down below.
Right, you'll put it on there. So me and my good drag queen friend, who's kind of my sister, kind of my protege, but she's amazing, Fat Patty, we have a podcast. It's called You Ain't Famous. The letter U Ain't Famous. It's all one word. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud. It's literally two drag queens getting together and just talking their mind. Mm-hmm. We say every unfortunate subject that comes up. We have the worst segues and pivots, but that's part of our charm. Mm-hmm. If you start listening to us, I encourage you to start with season 3, which is what we're currently in the middle of recording now. We do our recordings live at the Flex, Saturdays from noon to 4. Always check the schedule, because sometimes we take a week off, sometimes we take a month off between seasons. We also have a member of the trans community as part of our permanent cast. Mm-hmm. Mia Vandy Camp, she's amazing. We call her Vandy Camp because she's real fish. But it's one of those things that came out of, have you ever had that drunken moment where you're with your friends and you're like, you know what we should do? Open a restaurant. We know everything about restaurateuring. Or you know what, we could open up the best casino. They don't know what they're doing. That's literally what happened. Me and Patty got drunk and we said, we should do a podcast. And we actually followed through. Uh-huh. So that's how that happened. And 3 seasons later, a lot of people are finally starting to pick up and notice that we've been doing it and still are doing it and now want to participate, where in that first season it felt like we had to drag our interviews and stuff like right out of the mud because they didn't want to come. Right. But now we have a rotating cast of like regular interviewees and co-hosts and things like that. And it's all Vegas, it's all local. We also discuss a lot of the competition shows, Dragula, RuPaul's Race, Camp Wanakiki, all that fun stuff. Movies, pop culture, you name it, we go out there. We also do get very serious. We usually have at least one deep moment per episode. We talk about mental health, transgendered issues, all the various 1.5 million letters that are underneath the LGBTQ ... name and umbrella, all that fun stuff. We go there, we talk about it all, but the thing is we really go into it, and we've realized what's made our podcast more popular than when we first started is that we're being very honest about it. Yeah. We may ramble, we may go on, but at least we're saying what we think and we stand by it.
Yeah, you're being authentic.
We are, and we offer the chance. If you disagree with anything we say, if you feel attacked or personally, or if we talk about a story that maybe we didn't realize we were talking about you, hey, you will be the first person on the next episode to be interviewed. Mm-hmm. Come defend yourself, by all means. Have a sit. We'll buy your cocktails.
It's over at the Flex?
Over at the Flex. Okay. Saturdays, noon to 4. And we do 2 episodes because we have what we call our main You Ain't Famous episode. Uh-huh. And then we record a secondary episode which releases later in the week called the B-Sides. And that's the one where we're already wasted, drunk, and we really talk shit.
I told you guys you'd like Ray. So... this has been awesome. This has been fun. I knew Ray would be like the perfect person to have on here to talk about all this kind of stuff. So
I tried.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
So guys, links are going to be down below to Ray's podcast. Go ahead, check him out on iTunes and on Stitcher. You want to go by the Flex one day, say hi to Ray.
Be there on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Go for it. You know how to find him. So appreciate you guys watching this video. Ray, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Cool. That's going to be it for this, guys. I am Jacob. This is My Life in Vegas.
Bye.
Good job.
Thank you. That was